Exercise of databases. We are going to use an application called Libre Office, which I have open here. And you can use other applications to do these exercises, such as Microsoft Access, but obviously the layout of how the database and how you do everything is maybe a little bit different. What you're going to learn here is the fundamentals of databases. So when I open LibreOffice, as you can see, I've got the options of creating, say, a Word document, a bit like a Word document, but it's called Writer document, a spreadsheet, which is called Calc spreadsheet, presentation, which is similar as PowerPoint, and drawing, doing maths formulas, and then you can see base database. Okay, so I'm going to click on that one. Create a new database. Next. Do I want to register the database? No. Do I want to open the database for editing? Yes. Okay, so finish. Give it a name. So we're going to do an exercise that's for a car company called JXII Cars. So I'm just going to call that JXII Cars. And I'm going to save it on my desktop, but you probably want to save it into your USB pen drives, or you might have some storage locally in school. So save it to one of those places. Okay, so when I save it, you can see what it's done here. It's created two files. This file only appears when you've got the database open. So this is actually the database file. So you can see it's got the name and it says .odb. ODB would be LibreOffice database. Okay, so if I close this very quickly, you will see that this one has just disappeared. If I open it again, it'll actually appear again in a second. Right, so the first thing what I want to do is create a table, and we need to open up our JX Cars file. Now this file is a CSV file, so I can open it in a different way. I can open it with Text Strangler, which is just a bit like Notepad on Windows machine. And I've got all of this information that I want to import in. So there's quite a lot of it. You can see I've got, if I go right down to the bottom, 838 rows of data. Now the very first row, you can see it seems to be a bit different. It's got the titles here. Now these titles, we'll call these field names, and each item that's separated by a comma is called a field. Now this is important because databases, what you do with databases is you put data into tables, and then each row is called a record. That would be about one person or one item, and in this case it would be about cars. All right, so different cars here. And what we've got is a field name. So this one that's called VIN would be a VIN number, and this is actually used in real life, a VIN number. You can look up VIN numbers for different car models. Each car would have its own VIN number, of course. So this is a VIN number, and each one of them will be different. Okay, so this would be called a primary key. This is like a unique number that we can use to identify one record. So this one field is a primary key field, and it would identify all of this. So think of it a little bit like if we were to have students in a database table, we might collect their first name, and then first name would be this one. Their surname, that would be this next one. Date of birth, that would be the next one. Gender, and so on, right? And you might, of course, apart from having those details, how do you recognize one student from the other? Well, maybe you give them a student ID number, because you could have a possibility in a database where two people have the same name or have names that are very similar. So if they have a student ID, it's the same where you might join a library. You might have a library card and library ID, or if you go to the doctors, you've got a specific number on your medical card. So in Spain, that's a SIP number. So that identifies you as being a unique person. Okay, so in this example that we've got here, we've got these VIN numbers, which is unique model, a unique car. Right, so I'm just going to close that. I don't need it open in text editor, but I probably want to open it in LibreOffice in that package that's a bit like a spreadsheet. So I'm going to pick to right click and open with LibreOffice. I can obviously open it as a Microsoft Excel because I've got that on my computer, but I'm going to use LibreOffice for the moment. I'm just going to make sure that I'm doing this from row 1. So from all the rows I want to open this at, and you can see I've got the information down below. It's asking me about how this is separated, and it's got these selections, and I can pick, well, obviously comma is the one that I want to have this separated by, semicolon no, tab no, it's just by commas. And if I look at the data, you can see it's all separated out by the commas. So press OK, and I get the spreadsheet open. Right, I essentially want to copy all of this data. So if I pick this square here, that selects all of it, or the best idea would probably be to just do the selection all the way down, just to make sure I get everything. Right down, you can see I've got 800 and something. So I did it down to 838, selected all of those, and I can just pick up here to copy, or I can do Control C. So I've copied that. I'm going to minimize it for the moment, and then here, where I've got tables in my database, I'm going to right click and paste special. Right, so when it comes up, it asks me what type of selection do I want to do, hypertext markup language, which is obviously from a web page, or rich text format. So I'll probably just pick rich text format, say OK. Okay, so now I've got to give a table name for this. Now this table name, I'm just going to give it the same name as the actual database, or I could just call it cars. So I'll just say JXII, and then I'm going to do an underscore cars, like that. And what I want to do, so here you can see used first line as column names. That's important, we pick that option. And then create new field as a primary key. Now if I pick that, I can give that name for this one, but I don't want to. I want to use the VIN number as my primary key. So I'm just going to leave that off for the moment. Okay, so then say next. Right, these are the existing columns that I've now got. So you can see I've got all of them, and I just want to pick all of them to go over. And then say next. Right. So here you can see I can now start to pick the field type for these. Now most of these are just going to be straightforward text. Right? So we've got lots of different data types here. Small, tiny integer, big integer, image, so on and so on and so on. We've got loads of them. But we're going to just keep most of them as text. So you can see VIN model is going to be text. Model, power, engine size are all text. But price is going to be different. Price is going to be numeric, and it says currency. So we're going to have to see what we can do. I think we can just pick number. And in this case, because we don't have a specific one that says currency on here out of any of these, so we'll just say number, and we'll pick the decimal points to be two decimal points, because that's what we use for currency usually. Right, the next one would be color. It's going to be text, just check it's text. Discount applied, that's going to be numeric again, so we'll just do numeric and our number, and pick the two decimal points again. And then moving down, we've got date sold, it's going to be date. And then we've got sold, which needs to be a boolean. Okay, so a boolean logic, that will be yes, no. So you have to find yes, no, and there you see boolean. Right, so if I'm finished with that, I say create. Now it's going to come up saying a unique index or primary key is required for data record identification in this database. You can only enter data into this table when one of these two structural conditions have been met. Should a primary key be created now? I'm just going to say no for now, and then what I will do is afterwards pick the VIN one. So now I've got this data in here. If I open it, just double click on it, you can see we've got all of our data here. Right. and you can just check it's all okay. Now the sold one is coming up as a tick box, which is fine. So if I scroll right down, if we go on to the next page, got next page down here, you might see some that are not ticked. A lot of them are. So if I go to the very end, so I'm on 837, or you can see now some of them aren't ticked here, right? So they're down at this end. Okay, but we've got 837 records, which I think is about right for the amount that we were supposed to have. I'm going to close that, and now I'm going to right click on it and edit. So now when I click on edit, I'm in sort of design view. This is the sort of design view for the table, and on Vin I can just pick that would be a primary key. So I've just right clicked on that and said primary key now. So you can see it's given it a little key there, and as long as each one of these VIN numbers are unique, this will work. If a VIN number is not unique, you will come up with a problem, right? So it'll come up saying that there's a problem. So I'm just going to save that, and it has saved and it seems to be fine. And we can just check things like here where we've got price, we don't seem to have any option to pick currency out of that, so we'll just leave it as it is. And numeric here, we've got 2 decimal points. Date, we've got a format example, so this is probably the kind of format that we do want to keep it as. And what else have we got? We've got sales, varchar, and so on. Oops, just change that off to text by accident. Right, so I'm just going to close that. And if I open it again, you can see that we've got all this information. Now you can obviously make these table fields a little bit wider. If you double click in between the lines, that will sort of make them bigger for you, or smaller, as you can see. Close that. So that is how you make a table, and that's how you import the data. Right, the next exercise would be to insert some records. So what we want to do is open the table and go to the very end. And at the very end, you've got this plus sign, and we can just start to enter in this data. So 377C15423018, and you can press the tab key to go to the next box, so you don't have to keep on doing that with the mouse. So micro Z, just make sure you're doing all of this correctly. D, and we've got 1,200. Then we've got the price, 1,000 or 11,000. Then we've got the color is red. We don't have any discount applied, so we're just going to leave that. And then we've got the location, which is in Madrid. And then if it's sold, and the sold is no, so we just don't tick it. All right, so then we're just going to do the next one. So it'll be again 377C15423019. So it's almost the same as before. And again, micro Z, D, 1,200, not much difference in these. 11,000 again. And then we've got green this time for the color of the car. And the location of this car is in Paris. Right, last one. 377C15423020. Okay, so it's a micro Z again. Never heard of this model of car, but there you have it. 1200 for the engine size, so it's a 1.2 basically, that's the 1.2 engine size. 11,000, cheap car, and gold, terrible color for a car, and it's in Hamburg, Germany. Right. Before you move on, it says to check your data entry for errors. So just make sure you've got that 100% correct all the way. 18, 19, 20, micro ZD, 1200, or cylinder 1 to 1200, 1.2, 11,000, red, green, gold, Madrid, Paris, Hamburg, and sold, nope. Okay, so once you've done that, you press the save button and close. All right, so the next thing would be to move on to creating reports. So we're going to stop the video here and you can move on to the next video.